We're live. Great. Okay, we're live.
Everyone's phone's gonna.
Pardon?
Everyone's phone's gonna get a notification.
Notification that I'm live, yeah. Well, do me a favor, if your phone gets a notification, if you share it, then more people get to see it, so that's not a bad thing. More people get to see it. At the moment, there's nobody with us, but that's okay.
That's fine.
Right, okay. They're building a... Why did I take this out? It's the wrong thing. Didn't even want that.
Oh, there you go. Why do so many people keep saying Seder?
Right.
Yeah, there.
We're there. One person watching. Hey. Is it Paul? Paul's like, I'm sitting at the edge of the table watching you. Right. But share and like to pass it on. There's two. Sharer, is that you?
What's that?
Are you in? Three. Okay. Paul says hello. Hi, Paul. Nice to see you here. And Benji Gaines. Benji, next time you can join us here. Well, there's 7 people on. Is everybody here around the table on?
No.
8. Anthony Marks. Wow, there's a lot of people that have joined on. Okay, I'd like to ask the following question. Oh, we just got a like. Thank you very much. Please, if you're watching, if you share, then more people get to watch. Hi, sorry. More people get to watch. Please do share this on your feed. If you're watching live, it helps bump up the numbers and helps more people see it. So I'd like to do, I was asked to do a bit more of a discussion tonight, and I want to try to discuss the following. I'm going to open up this question to the floor. You're very welcome to add any comments if you want. If I do see them, hey Tzvi, hi from Antwerp. Pardon?
Interactive.
Interact. We're going to try and make this as interactive as possible. It's going to be hard to make this interactive with the people online or with the people sitting around the table. Let's try to stick to people around the table. I'll try to see if I can get some of the other people and some of the other comments. Thanks for sharing it, Benji. So here we go. The question is as follows, and this is what I was trying to figure out. I was thinking, Paul said to me, let's try to make a discussion, and I'm thinking about the following question. The question that was bothering me, it shouldn't really bother me. So it's something that, on the one hand, it's really, really positive, but on the other hand, it's something that I'm trying to figure out why, and I was wondering about, and that is, hi Avril, why is it that so many people, regardless of how secular they are, of course, the religious people keep the Seder, but even the secular people, so many secular people keep a Seder. You have secular people that they won't eat, they're not eating kosher, they're not keeping Shabbos, they're not keeping Taras HaMishpacha, they keep very, very little, rarely do they come to shul. But if you go around in Israel and you ask people if you're making Pesach, of course they're making Pesach. You go around here in Manchester, you speak to people and say, are you making Pesach? Of course I'm making Pesach. Are you having a Seder? Of course we're having a Seder. And we're having around my auntie and my uncle, this one from Cheadle and this one from here and this one from there. It's all the families get together and everybody seems to celebrate Pesach, no matter what you are, no matter who you are, whether you're religious, ultra-Orthodox, Mizrahi, whether you are just secular, whether you are modern Orthodox, whether you're conservative, whether you're Reform, whoever you are, somehow everyone seems to be celebrating Pesach. And my question is the following. What is it specifically, and this is how I'm opening up the question to the floor really before we go any further with this. What do you think it is that makes people, that draws people to the Seder? Why is it that people seem to keep the Seder when they keep almost very little other things? There are a few things in Israel that are sort of almost universal. I think one of them is mezuzah. You go around, you see lots of mezuzahs. Not that everybody will have a mezuzah on every single door, but there'll be lots of people that have at least a mezuzah on your front door. You go around Israel, no matter how secular people are, you will find it hard, you'll be hard pushed to find a house, a Jewish house, that doesn't have a mezuzah on it. Similarly, you'll be hard pressed to find a Jewish house. How many of you know people that don't make a Seder at all? Not a first, not a second. Not asking two. Plenty of people that make one and don't make the second. It's like 2 days Rosh Hashanah. It used to be 3-day Jews. Sadly, we've turned into 2-day Jews because second day Rosh Hashanah is just a repeat of the first day. So why do I got to come to Rosh Hashanah twice? I come once Rosh Hashanah, choose a day, and Yom Kippur. But same thing. So you won't have two people making 2 star on the second night, the same thing as the first night. Fine, making only 1 Seder. But my question is, okay, so even if you're making only 1 Seder, what is it that makes that connection for people, that people somehow want to keep the Seder? Okay? Opening up the question to the floor. Any suggestions, any answers?
Traditions?
Okay, tradition, right? Anybody else? Any other thoughts? I mean, tradition's an interesting one. I'm going to go through that with the idea of that.
Such a drastic change.
Okay, let's see. Chava, what does Chava say? The point we became a nation is going back to the beginning. Okay, we'll get to that soon, Chama. Maybe we'll speak about that also.
Because it's such a drastic change to the norm, it's something that sticks in everybody's minds.
Okay. Okay, it's a drastic change from the norm. People stick to people's minds. So that's three answers of our tradition. Being the beginning of the nation, drastic change.
I think the story behind it is a little bit more Hollywood than some of the other festivals.
Okay,
There's
could be.
films about it, aren't there?
Really?
Yeah, there's a film about it. You know, Moses, you know.
For the kids even.
Charlton Heston, everybody. We always hoping that one day or another, like, you know, the door's going to knock and like, you open up the door and Charlton Heston saying there, I'm joining you for Seder tonight. You know, you'd be like all excited.
There's part of me that says actually, and I wish it was for that reason, but part of me says it's just because that's what we've always done. And there's somebody still in the family who's holding and who's asked us to come. So we
Right.
know. And that might sound very negative, but I do wonder, and I look at, you know, members of my own family,
Yes.
and I wonder when it comes to the next generation.
Okay, that's a good question.
whether
I
they
discussed
will
it.
still do.
I discussed that with Sammy Morim, and he said that it's one of those things that maybe the next generation is not even taking on. As you know, you speak to me. Sammy Morim said to me that when he taught in King David, so he said that there were people, you know, when you get now 2-3 weeks off, now is they go off to, you know, he spoke to people, they're going to Ibiza, they're going somewhere in Spain. People are going on all sorts of holidays because he's getting 2 weeks off from school in the middle of April, right around Easter time. Perfect, brilliant, going away. So he spoke to some people and says, hey guys, why don't you take along matzah? Matzah? Why would I take matzah to Ibiza? You know, like, you know, are you crazy? You know, it's like the story. I still remember there was when I was in camp years ago. We had an overnight, and I wanted to get up early to daven shachris. So I woke up early, and was about to daven shachris, and for some stupid reason, I decided not to put on my glasses and just go to wake up one of my co-counselors that also wanted to daven shachris. Now, without my glasses, I'm telling you, I can't even see. I can't read this Dr. Pepper here. My vision has gotten worse over the years, but it's never been great. So I'm walking through this bundle of kids, and I walk over to one of my colleagues, and I shake him, and I say, hey, wake up. Huh? Wake up, Shachris time. And then I realized I woke up the wrong guy and he just looks at me and goes, dude, what the hell are you smoking? You know? That's what he said to me. That's what it was. Like, you know, it's like, what are you doing? Like, what, I'm going to take matzah with me to Ibiza? Are you gone crazy? So you're right. The next generation maybe is sort of booking out of that. But there is some sort of connection that we retain with the Seder that's stronger, that's more involved than almost anything else that we do.
It's more so if your kids are in Jewish schools, so that's what they're doing. At whatever level of Jewish.
Yeah, but they're learning about Hanukkah. Also, they're learning about Sukkot. Like, you don't have a sukkah, you don't have four.
I'm saying whatever level of Jewish education they're receiving.
Yes,
there's still a lot of time dedicated.
There is a lot of focus on that. There is a lot of focus on.
My Josh is in nursery, and
yes,
he's come home and he's 3 years old. He's talking about matzah and seder, and
that goes
yeah.
That goes back to what Sam was saying. It is the more dramatic kind of cinema, you know, like it could be a film. It could be.
It could have made a great film,
right? So
it's like a syllabus that
they've made.
It's like a syllabus.
Yeah, that's a result of the question.
Yeah, but on the I don't know what the question was, chicken and the egg.
There's more. Yeah, there's more.
But the problem with that, there is a problem with that also, because that means by the time they reach 12, the Seder's like so boring. Because when I was 3, I learned about the matzah. When I was 4, I learned about the matzah. When I was 5, I learned about the matzah. And by 6 and 7 and 8, you know, at one point or another, you're like, we're having matzah. Whoop-de-doo. You know, like, all right, go ahead, tell me the story already. We learned Pashat Shemot and Pashat Ve'eh and Pashat Bo. We learned it already. And you've taught it to us for Pesach for the last 16 years. I'm only 5 years old and I've heard it already 20 times. Like, we in a way, you're right, there's a bit of overkill on that also. So much so that some people that complain about the fact that the Seder has changed around from Bigat to Levincha, that the parents teach the children, it's turned around to that the children teach the parents. Yeah. You know, the kids come and go, okay, Daddy, sit down, let me tell you what I learned in school. I'm like, no, that's the wrong direction. So as we're going from parents to kids, not from kids to parents. Not that I'm against the kids saying things at the Seder, my kids also say things at the Seder. But primarily, it's a teaching experience from parents to children, not from children to parents.
That's another reason.
That what?
About the Seder is because it's always gone father to son, or the older generation telling the younger generation.
Yeah.
So the next generation have had it in them from...
Okay, that's an interesting point as well. Yeah.
I think...
Hi, David, you missed some good pizza. Yeah.
I think one of the biggest reasons is it's a good excuse to get the family together.
It's a good excuse to get a family. You think that has a family, it's got a family element to it.
Yeah, especially when there's older members of the family, and they would encourage the younger members of the family to
Right.
join them around.
Yeah, especially when there's always an Auntie Bertha that'll get insulted, like if you don't invite her, or if you don't come to her Seder, and everybody's like, oh God, we got to go to Auntie Bertha's Seder this year again. You don't want to go, and nobody wants to go. And
there's something quite, lovable about we're going to go to Auntie Bertha's Seder.
There is, there's...
Actually, none of us really enjoy it that much, but
we always laugh on the way there, and we always laugh on the way home, right? There's always a laugh on the way there. Okay, what's going to be this year? Uncle Alan is going to sit down, and Auntie Bertha's going to say, "I slogged so hard," and Uncle Alan's going to make the same joke he's been making for the last 50 years, and Bertha's going to get insulted, and then do you know how they have the same things? In our house we used to have, there was always this running joke that my father and my mother used to do. And my mother used to always say, and I don't know why, every year we knew that this was coming, and my mother just somehow never saw it was coming. So every year my mother used to, at one point or another, in the middle of the Haggadah, used to say, "I just want you to know, it says in the Midrash, B'schus noshim tzidkanias nigal mitzrayim, in the merit of the righteous women we've been taken out of Egypt." Just wanted to make that clear. But no. So, says, all right. And then my father looks at my mother and he goes, "Yeah, let me tell you the story how it went. The women came to God and said, 'God, it's time to let the Jews out of Egypt.' To which God said, 'I said 400 years. It's 210. We've not really figured this one out yet.' So the women said to God, 'Don't worry, we'll take care of the last 190. Let's go.'" That every year we had that same joke. Every year there was that same dialogue between my father and my mother, like 10 years running. And it's like, okay, here it comes. My mommy's going to say that. My father's going to say the other thing. That part of what makes the Seder so lovable. Because there's sort of things. There's always one auntie that's worried about all the cups spilling, and there's always one kid that'll spill the wine no matter what you do. You can give him a bulletproof glass that's been magnetically pulled down. Somehow the same kid is always about, "Oh, you spilt again!" There's always one. That's how it goes.
Is it just? It's tradition, but just a physical representation of identity.
It could be.
It's the easiest way to.
It is I do find that there's a very strong identity involved with it. As I said, how many people do you know that don't keep Seder? Yeah? And so if you spoke to somebody who goes, "This year we're not doing Seder," they would look at you and goes, "What?" If you had a good friend of yours who's traditional, who said to you, "Simon, we've been doing Seder for the last 30 years. This year we decide we're not doing Seder."
Well,
you'd feel like somehow like, what happened?
But compare it to all the other things, with the exception of Hanukkah.
Yeah.
You can do Pesach, you can do Seder,
yeah,
and kind of make it your own. And you can do. You're not saying you're doing the but you can do as much or as little as you want and have a Seder.
Yeah, every house will look different.
You'll do,
skip this page, skip this page.
You might not exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So you've delivered something, but when you look at some of the other things, you can't necessarily do that.
You're saying I can't really turn Yom Kippur into an hour service as much as I'd like to.
And as much as you might be quite happy to shake a lot of an etrog,
yeah,
you're going to go to shul, you're going to build a sukkah. It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
But Shavuos is quite easy, isn't it?
Cheesecake.
Shavuos is the one that, if I'm honest, when we got the one that everyone seemed to just, anyone that wasn't particularly orthodox just kind of didn't
ignore it.
Well, because there's nothing to do. It's a cheesecake. It's a cheesecake.
Loads of cheesecake, and then you spend the whole night learning. Oh, whoop-de-doo. If anybody is is not into learning, they're like, how's about you come back to shul at 12:30, and we'll put on 3 shiurim, and then we can daven with daybreak at 3 o'clock, and you get to go home at 5:30 after having had cheesecake at shul. No. That's sort of it. I don't think that speaks to anybody. Yeah, unless you're that way inclined, doesn't. And that's why I know. In Cheadle they did this really successfully last year. It's amazing that they were able to pull this one off. There's almost no other shul that can do this. The one shul that's really amazing. Dine Berger told us. We met with Dine Berger last week, and he said that he was in Bourne Wood for Shavuos 2-3 years ago. He was the guest at Bourne Wood for Shavuos, and he said there were 500 people in Bourne Shul for Tikkun Shavuos. That's just crazy. It's a whole different amount.
I think you can create it, but that's another story.
No, we need to discuss that. So I think we are discussing it and how to do it, because it's not so. The point is, it needs rebranding. At the moment, the brand is come and hear a share at 1 o'clock in the morning. And that brand is sort of, you don't have to be a great marketing expert to work out that that's not really a great sell. That's not going to go very far with people. So let's just try to come back on the ideas that were mentioned. So number one was mentioned tradition, the fact the family comes together. Somebody mentioned achdus, somebody mentioned also on the feed about the fact that we're coming back together again. This is where we started, where we began. What else was mentioned over here? There's so much, the story is very inspirational, and there's so much more to it than most of the other stories. There's a lot of different elements within Pesach. But I think that, there are a few things that I was, two things that somebody mentioned to me, and one idea that I thought for myself also, that I'll share with you. You can always argue with any of these ideas. Somebody said to me, a few people I spoke to tonight said this idea, and somebody said to me, even that Rabbi Sachs said this idea. He said that anything that requires effort has people buying into it. Not sure why that is, but he said that's what he seems to say. Where you put in more effort, it becomes yours. There is a point in that. The more you invest in something, the more it's yours. So a project that's been my project for the last 3 months, you feel very, very connected to that project. And if somebody goes ahead and criticizes that project, you're like, I worked on that for the last 3 months. Don't you criticize that project. Whereas if you just had a quick glance over it and somebody criticizes, all right, I looked at it, big deal. So you give it a criticism. Pesach has a certain amount of effort putting into it that almost no other holiday has. We turn the house upside down. Somebody said somebody I was speaking to tonight said to me, he heard from somebody, they says, my grandmother, who was an old lady, said, this year I'm getting old and I've not been able to sweep the ceilings the way I've swept them over the last 20 or 30 years. And my grandmother and my mother will be turning in their graves, knowing that I have not swept my ceilings. And I turned around and was like, I don't know about you, but I don't eat this way. Maybe some of my kids are like, hey, pizza, look, boom.
Hopefully not a Seder.
I hope not a Seder. So finally, guys saying that. What was that? Oh, that's the pizza that we didn't. That's the pizza we didn't get. We've been waiting for that to come down for the last 4 weeks.
6 months that's been up
6
there.
months has been up there. You have some mazel for it to fall on your head, right?
And during Seder.
And during Seder. No, if you have a pizza stuck up there, you really have to get rid of that for chametz. That would really pose an issue. But beyond that, nobody's got. It's nice to clean it, but people put in that effort. People go through all this effort doing all these things. I know my mother for years used to go through every single toy in the house, counting the pieces of the puzzles and counting the pieces. And we're like, Mom, nobody has touched this toy since you cleaned it last year for Pesach. It's as Pesach-ig as it gets. Why are you spending hours counting puzzle pieces?
Do you think people do? Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I think that's more for the sort of maybe more from a kind of crowd that would do that, kind of go to that level to a point.
Okay, but a lot of people, but that's true, but a lot of people put in a lot of effort even without that. People put in
the opposite, that some of the less religious people,
they put in a lot.
They put in huge amounts.
People put in a huge and a disproportionate. I would say disproportionate. Even if they're not doing their ceilings, there's a disproportionate amount of effort that goes into Pesach that doesn't go to almost anything else that they do. What does it take to come to shul on Yom Kippur? If you live far away, you'll get in the car and you'll drive there. And if you live nearby, it'll be nice if you walked. And that's basically it. You get there, and then maybe I can last an hour, maybe I can last 2 hours, maybe I can last 3 hours, 5 hours if I'm a world record holder, but that's it. There's been 5. Whereas there are people that have spent days cleaning their house, buying all sorts of new foods, and spending a lot more money on foods that they almost never would spend in an. You tell a guy that doesn't normally keep kosher, come with me to a kosher shop. Not only to a kosher shop, but kosher the Pesach shop. So kosher,
Pay double.
Forget pay double. Kosher versus, people, it was interesting. I did this comparison. I was just interested to see. I walked into Aldi to see what a loaf of bread costs. I didn't do that only for the loaf of bread. I bought some stuff there. But as I walked past it, I was like, I wonder what it costs to buy a loaf of bread at Aldi. It's 25 or 35 pence to buy a loaf of bread at Aldi. It is £2 at a Jewish bakery.
I used to charge £25.
Did they?
Yeah.
How many years ago was that?
A few.
Quite a few.
I remember.
Yeah, you know, so it's 25p for a loaf of bread in Aldi. It's probably more in Tesco. It's probably £1. It's £2. But now try to take a guy in and says, okay, here's a box of matzah. How much is the matzah? £6 a box. When I'm paying 25p for a loaf of bread that tastes a lot better than this box of matzahs. You talk about inflation over there. That's what, 25 times as much? 4 times 6, yeah, 24 times as much. It's crazy. And then you take them around and say, what else are we going to get? We're going to get, like, you know, the Passover this and the Passover the crisps and everything. They're a fortune. And Walkers are better, right? Everybody knows Walkers crisps taste better than these Passover crisps. You're like, I just spent £5 on a pack of crisps that are rubbish. That tastes terrible, that, you know, and then some people tell you, that's got kidneys oil in it, I wouldn't even buy that, you know? Well, you shut up already, like, you know, I bought up a Passover crisps, like, you know, be happy I bought something. Yeah? So these people, they're going through a tremendous effort, they're spending money on food and prices that they would never spend the entire year, they would never even consider that. I once had a non-Jewish guy, I saw a non-Jewish guy walking into Havers, I think it was the only shop that was still open in the vicinity, and he wanted to buy some frozen pizza. And he went to the freezer section, he opened up the freezer, he's like, £8? Have you guys lost your mind? He couldn't believe he bought this frozen pizza, and it's got nothing on it also, you know? It's this tiny little bag of pizza, he stuck it straight back in the freezer. It's like, you guys are a rip-off. Like, look, it's kosher food, you know? Go to Tesco, buy yourself something not kosher, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, don't do yourself a favor, leave this kosher shop because you don't have to eat kosher anyway. Why are you spending 6 times, 10 times the amount that you have to spend? So you take people that don't really keep kosher and you bring them into not only kosher shop, but Pesach shop, that's disproportionate. The fact that they're going to clean the entire house and they're going to have that many guests and they're going to make this big, you know, there is a disproportionate amount. Now, depending on how religious you are, some people, it's weird because some people are a lot less religious and still go through tremendous lengths. Some people are very religious and go through tremendous lengths, and the different people that will do different things. But it's definitely true to say that people who are not as religious go through a disproportionate amount of effort for Pesach that they don't go through for almost anything else within. And that effort has a certain effect on people. When you put in the effort, you begin to love it. It becomes part of you. And because it becomes part of you, and throughout the generations it becomes part of you, so I think that was the idea that Rabbi Sachs says. The more effort you expend on something, the more you feel connected to it. So that's the first idea. The second idea is that there is, Sammy told me this, and I thought this was an interesting idea. He said that the Seder celebrates freedom. We all, in one way or another, we want to be free. That's a dream that we have, all of us. You know, everybody has a different way of, it's weird talking and hearing myself in the background in the kitchen. It's so funny. No, leave it. Leave Laura, please. It's very funny. Sorry, I'm just listening to myself. Okay. It's great. No, what we're doing well. We got 11 people watching. It's amazing. It's amazing to see what's going on over here. People, but it's also fun to see 3, 5, 7, 9, 8, 7, 6, 3. I'm like, hey, okay, I'm not doing well. Fine, you know, go, see you, bye. Like, you know, like what's this rabbi? Forget it. Yeah, but I thought, oh, it's just a rabbi, right? That's what it is. Yeah. So. Everybody wants
an element that
pardon?
you want to do the right thing. It's
I don't know because
guilt.
You know, there could be guilt. Yeah, there is an element of guilt in almost anything, in a lot of the things that people do. So, for example, when it comes to death and bereavement, I think there's something more powerful behind it. Because, for example, when people said tradition. Let me go back to some of the things I mentioned. Somebody said tradition here before. A few people said tradition. The problem I have with saying that is tradition is that there's so many other traditions. So why did we choose this tradition? Why did this one stick when a lot of other ones didn't stick? Right? We have the same tradition of Shavuos. We have the same tradition of Sukkot. We have a tradition of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and we have there's so many. We have a tradition of kosher, a tradition of Shabbos, and yet all those things seem to have gone by the wayside, and only very few of these traditions stuck. So there must be something beyond just tradition. So it's tradition plus something else. It's like there is another added element that adds to the tradition that wants people to interact with Pesach beyond it being just tradition. Yeah.
It's, if you look at the Seder, it's because probably it's the guilt of sacrifice that you people made all that time ago that's just gone.
But they didn't sacrifice anything. They got out with it.
I know, but it's the whole slavery and the whole.
So okay, that's somebody mentioned about being free. Whether it's whether it's correct to say that it's because people have gone free. Then
it's funny because I didn't go to Jewish school, but we actually, like religious education, we
Yeah.
actually learn about Passover. It was,
Right.
It was like a subject.
Yeah, Passover is a big,
It's a big, even in.
you
like
don't learn about
non-Jewish-
Shavuot in non-Jewish
No,
schools. They
that's-
won't teach you, in in
it's-
Ari, they won't teach you about Shavuot.
No,
right?
or Shabbat even.
Yeah,
nothing.
really interesting.
Yeah, nothing. It was the only thing
That you're taught is
was
Passover.
either the Holocaust or Passover. They were the only
Hold
two
on,
things.
let me just have a look. The only way to tradition is repeated over and over. The only way Yom Tov that men, women, and children are equally involved. Okay, that's an interesting point, Chava. Chava says that it's the only Yom Tov that, when you do things over and over again and you involve men, women, and children in the same way, so that men, women, and children really are almost equally involved in the Seder. Throughout the generations, it creates a feeling of connection and commitment. That's a very good point.
I
That
think
people.
it's a really good point.
That's a very good
Actually,
point.
Most people turn up to a Seder and they can participate. So
Yes.
it's difficult to participate.
Pardon?
Unless- it's not difficult.
No, it's not difficult to participate. Everybody has something
It's
to
familiar.
add. Whether you are a
People
3-year-old kid and you're singing Manishtana, or whether you are a 20-year-old adult that's being asked a question or being asked something to contribute, or whether you are the 50-year-old male or female that's running the Seder. But everybody makes Kiddush, not only the head of the household, and everybody eats matzah, not only the head of the household, and everybody eats mar, and everybody's important. So that's a very, very interesting point that Chava is making, that it is a very sort of, what's the word? Inclusive. We'll call it inclusive. Yeah, that's a good word. I was good. Yeah.
Yossi.
I was thinking of a different word also,
It wasn't the word he was thinking.
No, it was not the word I was thinking. I was thinking egalitarian, but I think inclusive is even better. It is egalitarian, it is inclusive, because it includes men and women, and it also includes children of all ages, girls and boys. Right? I've yet to have heard even of a Seder, even by Hasidim, where the women sit in the kitchen. Not heard that yet. Well, yeah, okay, they might be in the kitchen trying to get the food ready.
She's cooking, yeah.
There's always cooking. There's always, my mother used to go out and my father used to say, I'll call you for Rabban Gamliel. Enjoy, Because that was always Rabban Gamliel, that's kosher, if you didn't mention these three things, everybody always comes back in. Is Rabban Gamliel? All right, I'll come back in, I'll go back to tend to the soup. And there's always, by the way, I don't know how many of you guys had this, but we always had an old auntie who was already elderly and she couldn't manage.
Bertha.
No, her name wasn't Bertha, but she used to, her name was Irene, yeah? Yeah, but she used to, and she used to always, and my grandmother used to do this every year, and my mother used to go crazy with it every year, and my grandmother used to do it anyway. She used to say, Irene's hungry, we're going to the kitchen to have some soup. And my mother's like, we're in the middle of the Seder. Yes, but she's an old lady, we're going to have soup. It was like every year the same thing. So like middle of the Seder, something they just like trudged off and they had soup in the kitchen. So, everybody does their own thing. But I think that's a very, very interesting point, that it's something that speaks to everyone. It strikes, and that might help within the tradition. It's a traditional thing, but it speaks to everyone, because there's a lot of other traditions, but they don't speak to people in the same way. Okay? Then there was the idea of freedom, that Pesach symbolizes freedom, and that people want to feel freedom in their own lives. And Pesach has an element of freedom even in your own life as well. Is learning how to plug into that freedom. And that's part of what the Seder is there for. Is not only feeling free, them going out of Egypt, but you feeling your own freedom within your own confines. Everybody is confined by or constricted by certain issues, by certain problems, by certain relationships, whatever it might be within their lives. And you can find that freedom within Pesach, and that speaks to people. But I thought there might be one other thing I'm just going to finish with this, and anybody who wants to disagree or make any more points is very welcome to. And that is, when you think about Pesach, one of the interesting things about Pesach and about the Jewish people leaving Egypt is the fact that Jewish people did not deserve to leave Egypt. They didn't really deserve that. Because if you think about it, come Shavuot, they deserved to get the Torah because they were already there, they'd come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Sukkot, they got the clouds of glory. And come Purim, they prayed for the miracle and they got the miracle. But what did the Jewish people do in Mitzrayim that they deserved to be redeemed? Not much. So much so, there's one of those verses in the Haggadah that everybody reads and nobody knows. Ve'at erom ve'eryah, ve'arach mizvosesa v'damayach, v'amalach v'damayach. It's one of those psukim that everybody goes, yeah, it goes on and on. It's one of those psukim, and everybody's like, what does that mean? You go on and on that pasuk, and you don't know what it means. But what the pasuk really says, you've come of age, and you've reached a certain stage within yourself, but you weren't really ready. And that's basically what it means. You have come of age. You've come to the point where God says, I'd like to redeem you. But God says, but what merit do you have for me to redeem you? I need something. Do something, or show me what it is that you deserve to be redeemed. What is it that allows me to redeem you? So much so when the Jewish people were standing by the Sea of Reeds and God's about to split the Yamsuf for them, the angels say to God, or the attribute, not of mercy, but the attribute sort of the other side, the attribute that comes down harsh on the Jewish people says, how can you let these people out? How can you let these people go free? Halal avodah zarah, the Mitzrayim, the Egyptians are of the avodah zarah, the halalu of the avodah zarah, and it's the Jewish people that also, they served idols in the same way. So if those served idols and those served idols, why do these deserve to go through the Sea of Reeds? And you're going to split the sea for them, and you're going to drown those. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't sound fair. And what was it? So what was it that the Jewish people did that gave them the ability, or that allowed them to go out? So it says, that's what it says, two bloods. One is the blood of Milah, that the Jewish people did a Brit Milah on their children before they left Egypt. And the second one was a Paschal lamb. They took the Korban Pesach, and they put it aside, and they shechted that Korban, and they said, this is what we're going to do, and they took the blood, and they sprinkled it on the doors, and they had a Seder. And the first Seder in Egypt that the Jews did is what enables the Jewish people, or what enabled the Jewish people in those days to leave Egypt. And we say, wait a minute, they didn't have any real right to leave Egypt. They didn't have anything they could turn around and say, in this merit or in that merit, I want to leave Egypt. They didn't have any merits. And yet God let them out of Egypt anyway. Do you know why? Because God wanted to have them as free people. He had promised it to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. These were going to be his people, and he takes them out. And there is a certain, and this is how I feel, it could be wrong, but within Jewish hearts there's a certain affinity for that feeling. That God chose us whether we deserve to be chosen or not. Whether we've kept everything, whether we've kept nothing, or whether we have only one or two mitzvahs to our name, which is all we had to our name in those days. You had two mitzvahs to your name, Bris Milah and Korban Pesach. That's all. And God says that's good enough. And I feel that the Jewish soul connects with that idea because it's an idea that gives hope, an idea that enables you to have that love for the Seder. Because in the end of the day, no matter who I am, I can be religious, I can be secular, I can be modern Orthodox, I can be Hasidic, I can be Haredi, I can be whoever I am. There's a place for me within this people. And that God loves us no matter what. And that God redeemed us. In this case, it wasn't a meritocracy. He didn't redeem us on our great merits. He didn't redeem us because he said, these Jewish people deserve to come out because they've been the most wonderful, amazing people ever. It's not true. We didn't have anything to our name. And God still redeemed us. That, I think, creates, I think that subconsciously, at least with Jewish people, together with everything else that was mentioned, gives a certain love. To me, gives a certain love. It makes you feel that, you know what? Whether we are really good, or whether we turn around and say, you know what? Something's wrong with the Jewish people. We're not in the greatest situation. It's not like we can look at the Jewish people today, the state of the Jewish people, and clap our hands and say we're in this greatest, we're in a great state. We're in a great stage as far as the Jewish people are concerned. We're not in such a great stage as far as the Jewish people are concerned. Plenty of work to be done. However, even though there's all that work to be done, God still will be willing to redeem us, even if there's just a little bit of hope. Even one or two mitzvahs. Even that little bit that we do for Him is enough to free us. And I think that creates a certain love. That creates this relationship. That creates the feeling that, hey, I want to buy into this. I want this to become part of who I am. I want it to become part of the Yom Tov that I always keep. Because God cares for us no matter who we are. And therefore, in return, we also buy into God, even if we don't buy into everything else. Because this Seder reminds us that no matter who you are, you still deserve to go free. That was the idea. Any other ideas, comments, questions? Thank you everybody who did join in. Please like and share with anybody who was on there on Facebook. Lots of people came on Facebook. Please like and share. Thanks Sam for sponsoring. And please join us again for the Shurim after Pesach. We will discuss other topics. Thank you very much. Come on.
to close that thing as well.
Look, it's frozen up that way. To do this. Close. Finished.